Salaam alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his apostle. Beloved brothers and sisters, we're not going to take a lot of time. Our beloved minister is on his way, and he will arrive here shortly. But in the meantime, I would like to bring before you a brother that many of you know, but there may be some of you who don't know. But he's a brother. Some of you have talked about how long you've been in the struggle. This is a brother who has been in the struggle not only all of his adult life, but most of his youth in the service of the Nation of Islam. He has been the right hand of Brother Minister Farrakhan prior to 1975 and the fall of the nation, and ever since the nation has been brought back by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. He today is serving not only as the national and international assistant to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, but he has established and is maintaining and is about to spread our African mission in Ghana. He is stationed in Ghana to spread Islam as taught by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan throughout our mother continent. Brothers and sisters, let us welcome home our brother, your brother, my brother, Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Minister Farrakhan, to the national staff, and those brothers and sisters here at Mosque Maryam, if I can get some help up here, be good. I want to, first of all, thank our minister very much for giving me an opportunity to say a few words before you hear from him this afternoon. He's back in Chicago and anxious to talk to the believers. I want to cover about 4 points, and I hope that Allah will bless me to cover them quickly, about our work as the Nation of Islam in Africa. As the war in the Gulf has taken its toll not only among the young brothers and sisters from America who are in the Gulf, but it has taken a tremendous toll on the brothers and sisters on the African continent. Not only the North African area where Islam runs from Morocco to Egypt, but throughout what they call Africa south of the Sahara. And those countries, especially in West Africa, that are dominated by a Muslim population. Recently you heard about the trouble in Nigeria and Liberia. And even though the information about Liberia, a war that is now 13 months old, and even though they say the war has stopped, the war is actually still going on, but it has had an effect on Liberia. It has had an effect on Ghana, the war in the Gulf, and it's just starting. And one of the things that I witnessed in my address to the Muslim community in Ghana, a country that has a Muslim population of, some people say 45%, but the Muslims and those who know in Ghana believe that the Muslim population may be 60%. But the Muslims in Ghana are trying to feel their place in this current crisis. When I went to Ghana on my first visit in 1986, I saw how Islam was there, but the Muslims were not progressive. Minister Farrakhan spent 13 days in Ghana and made a tremendous impact on the society from the top to the very bottom. And one thing that Minister Farrakhan was blessed to do in Ghana was to inspire the Muslims to do better for themselves and make a meaningful contribution to their government. And since he left Ghana and returned in 1989, Minister Farrakhan has become one of the most powerful images in the country of Ghana. Wherever you go in Ghana, among the Christians and the Muslims, Minister Farrakhan is well known. And what the leadership of Ghana likes about the Nation of Islam and Minister Louis Farrakhan is that it represents a progressive step in the religion of Islam where the Muslims have been in the background in terms of the movement of government and progressive thinking and forward ideas in the country of Ghana. Thank you. So I want to give you a picture, a little brief picture of how Muslims in that part of the world are viewed and seen. When the colonial masters came in and conquered all throughout West Africa, and then in 1884 when they carved up Africa, and they made sure that a French country was next to an English country and didn't regard tribal boundaries, just carved the country up, the Muslims had a fear of Western education among their children because they felt that if they gave their children this Western education, they would leave Islam. And to them, Islam was more important than an education. They didn't know how to handle the dynamics of Western education. So when the missionaries went in, not only did they preach Jesus, a white Jesus, not the truth of Jesus, a white Jesus, a white heaven, and a white church, they set up schools. And they encouraged the people to send their children to these missionary schools. Any Muslim that thought that an education was important for his child and sent them to those schools, they immediately changed the Muslim's name. Oh, your name is Muhammad? It's so hard to pronounce, Muhammad. Why don't you call yourself Michael? That's much easier. Both of them start with an M. And so this is how they began to change the names of the Muslims and eventually showed them that their religion was backwards and that they either need to leave religion altogether or accept Christianity. This went on. This went on for nearly 75 years solid. So the Muslims began to pull back. They wouldn't let their children become educated. So by 1980, you had people running a society in many of these countries, I'm talking about in Black Africa, where the Muslims, even though they had large numbers, they had no presence in the decision-making mechanism of those governments. Now, I've experienced that in Ghana firsthand. The leadership of Ghana, its great appreciation of the Nation of Islam and the leadership of Minister Louis Farrakhan, is that what he saw was some progressive Muslims, some Muslims who were not steeped in a time capsule, some Muslims who were not afraid of education, and some Muslims that realized that the world moves on and man and women must move forward with the world. So they wanted Minister Farrakhan to bring this kind of dynamic teaching to the people of Ghana, hoping that this would allow them to progress. So this conflict breaks out in the Middle East. When I go to the mosque to Juma prayer on Friday, most of the mosques, they speak in Hausa or Arabic or local dialect, but the brothers tell me what they're talking about, and they're confused. And whenever confusion or darkness comes in, people should stand still. But there's forces pulling on them from all directions, and the people are looking for which way they should go, especially in the Muslim community. This crisis is not no small crisis. This is not Korea or Vietnam. This is a major crisis. The thing that I've experienced in Ghana, which is a poor country with poor people, is that the gasoline is $3 a gallon. That's double of what you're paying right here in Chicago. And you're paying more than what is paid in most cities right now. But don't be lulled to sleep because it's only $1.50. If this thing goes on, you may be paying $3 and even $5 a gallon. And every day on the Dan Ryan will look like a holiday. But the point is that poor people in Africa are suffering because of this. Poor people who can barely afford to send their children to school, who have to not only buy petrol, as they call it, but have to buy kerosene to light their homes in areas where there is no electric, who have to buy kerosene to run their farm equipment in order to grow the food to feed their family. So the effect of what's happening in the Gulf is not just 1 million troops ready to go to battle and aerial bombing on the Iraqis, but it's affecting the entire world, especially the poor people in the third world. So it opens an opportunity for teaching in Ghana. It opens an opportunity for young men and women to get involved, those who are Muslims and those who are not Muslims. but to get involved in a dynamic teaching that will give them a forward approach to life itself. I just recently went to Nigeria to attend a reparations conference. And the idea of reparations, first on this side, now is becoming international. But at the reparations conference, they could not avoid from looking at the problems that's happening internationally, especially in the Gulf. So the people of the country that I'm now a resident of, Ghana, they are looking forward to some direction, someone who will give them some hope and direction, someone who will clear the path. Sometimes when there's confusion, you need a ray of light so you can understand what's going on. It's something to be in a society where you don't know how to speak, how to say what you really feel. You don't know whether what you say is right or whether it's wrong. Whether if you say it, you're going to be persecuted for saying it, or whether you're going to be applauded for saying it. Whether you should get in the fight or stay out the fight. So people need clear directions. Governments in Africa and Black Africa have sent token forces to the Gulf area because money becomes the issue. You send 500 troops, I'll give you some aid. So all of these dynamics are going on in the world that many of us do not understand. So people need someone who will give them clear light. Inshallah, in July of this year, we hope to take a delegation of Muslims from the Nation of Islam to Ghana. The chairman, Jerry Rollins, I had 3 excellent meetings with him, and I told him that Minister Farrakhan has approved of the Nation of Islam putting together a delegation of Muslims, maybe 100 to 200 Muslims leaving America July 25th or 26th. It depends on what the airlines are doing. Now, I don't want you to be afraid. When I was coming back to America, my traveling companion was saying, you think we should take this airline or should we take that airline? I said, I don't care what airline we take. If it's your time to go, we going anyway. Let's get on to America and take care of this business. But the airports of Europe were empty. I go through Amsterdam and London all the time. Amsterdam, that is one of the most crowded airports on the European continent, was like the airport in Amsterdam was like a ghost town. And it means that people are gripped with fear. They don't know what to think, what to do, because they're engaged in something that there is no end to it. It will not end because one say I'm the victor. It will not end as the Palestinian struggle for 48 years has not ended. And it will not end until the people get freedom, justice, and equality. This struggle will not end. So the people are gripped by fear. And when you're gripped by fear, I heard Minister Farrakhan teach in New York one time that some people stay indoors. They just stay in the house. And they say that there's a lion in the street. They refuse to go forward. But the minister taught revolution and reason. He said that, but the white man makes a gun, kills the lion, and goes in the street. We cannot be gripped by fear that our work will not go on in terms of the redemption of our people. So I hope when July comes, that we can rely on some Muslims who have some heart, that they say, well, I'm going to Africa to see what the work is all about. Even though the white man said it'll be over in 10 days, it'll be over in a week. I read the International Financial Times on my way to America, and it started off like this. It said that before the bombing started 8 days ago, Saddam Hussein had the 15th largest army in the world. After 8 days of bombing, Saddam Hussein has the 15th largest army in the world. So if they thought that in 1 week it would be over, it's not over. So we must move on with our work. We pray to Allah in the quiet of our homes. We asked Allah for peace. We asked Allah to spare our sons and our daughters and our relatives and our loved ones who are caught up into a thing much bigger than them that they themselves do not understand. We pray that Allah will bring them safely back home, but we also say Allah is the best knower. If there has been miscalculations, then someone has made it. And there's been miscalculations on all sides in this current conflict. So I'm saying that we want to make this trip. Minister Farrakhan gave me permission, and I want to announce it today. Inshallah, if I'm home for, 3 or 4 weeks, or in America. My home is in Africa right now. But if I'm in America for 3 or 4 weeks, I want to announce the trip. There are many Muslims that I feel need to make the trip, and non-Muslims. And believe me, for the young brothers and sisters, Africa has a way of changing your outlook on life. Africa has a way of, when you see how people live with next to nothing and how they struggle with the forces of life trying to pull them down and to stay afloat, it gives you more strength yourself. When you walk through those slave castles and see the dungeons where our people suffered before they were brought to America, it has a way of changing you. Jermaine Jackson and Mustafa Farrakhan came to Ghana. And when they came to Ghana, their second day, we took them to the slave castles. And Jermaine Jackson said that this trip has made a profound impact on me. He had just the experience of walking through those dungeons and seeing where our sisters were kept and what they suffered. Seeing our brothers and going through the door of no return, it made an impact. One of the most beautiful things that happened, and I pray Allah we can share it with the Muslims, is that Jermaine Jackson did an interview on television in Ghana that was played by the leader of Ghana 3 times. He enjoyed it so much. But in the television interview, the man who is the foremost expert on the Jackson family was questioning Jermaine Jackson on his family, and you know that family gives very few interviews. And he asked him at the end of the interview, he said, every man or woman believes in something. He said, what do you believe in? And he said, so Jermaine Jackson said, what do you mean by that? He said, you know, people believe in their music, believe in themselves, believe in God. So Jermaine Jackson looked him in the eyes. He said, well, if you're asking me what I believe in, I'm a Muslim, if you want to know that. And Allahu Akbar. But all of the brothers in the station who were Muslims, not that there were sisters there, but they just didn't holler Allahu Akbar. But there were Muslim brothers in the station. And when he said that, no one knew in Ghana that Jermaine Jackson was a Muslim, and all of them said, Allahu Akbar, all out in the station. But it was touching, because the man asked him, what do you believe in? He said, well, I'm a Muslim. And he was affirming his faith as a Muslim. I want to say 2 more things, that when I was here 6 months ago, almost to the day, I made an appeal for brothers and sisters to help me in the information center in Ghana, where we give brothers and sisters magazines and books. You don't know how valuable a pen or a piece of paper is, or a crayon in Ghana. Ask my daughter, she'll tell you. But there was a family here called the Brown family. They sent me some boxes of clothes, books, and magazines. I tried to write you, but you didn't put an address inside, and they destroyed the box that your address came in. So publicly, I want to thank you very much, that entire family. Also, there's a sister here, Sister Cheryl 2X Rogers. I want to say that Sister Cheryl was the first sister that I received packages from, and then she was consistent. She sent them. Sister Farrakhan was right there. I'd get a package in the mail. I was like a boy with a new toy. I said, look, I got a package. I got a letter from the United States. Also, I want to publicly thank Sister Claudette Marie-X, because Sister Claudette sent me packages, magazines, kept me up with what was happening in the nation, sent me the newspapers, whatever was going on in Washington, in Chicago, the Savior's Day program. You don't know what it means to be in Africa, where I have no telephone at my home, where if I want to go out, I have to do certain things to leave and go out. And you don't know what it means to get a piece of mail from home and someone tells you what's happening. There's a few other brothers and sisters in Chicago. I know that you have good intentions of writing, but this is my opportunity to tell you how important it is for you to sit down and just drop a couple of magazines or some newspapers. And brothers, I know you sell out every week and you have 1 or 2, but maybe one got wrinkled that you didn't sell. I know you have no final calls nowhere around, but maybe there's a few somewhere that you can find, stuff them in an envelope and send them, so that when I go to these small villages where the people don't have anything to read, barely have light, that I can take them the light of the Final Call newspaper and put it in their hands as I teach them of the work of the Nation of Islam. So I want to thank those believers. Minister Louis Farrakhan is here, and before I give way to Sister Ava Muhammad, and I want to thank Sister Ava for her hard work and her help of the Ghana mission. But I just want to say 2 things, and then I'm going to sit down. Number 1 is that Minister Farrakhan's work now has taken a different twist. When I say twist, it's like a train. It takes a different move. Because this war that is going on now is not just a war with Iraq. If you listen closely, the talk of Islam, the same thing that happened to the Japanese during World War II is going on in this country. We're Muslims, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us of this hour. He had a headlines, "Will the Muslims go to war?" I believe it was in 1963. He had a headlines on the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. But he told us that an hour would come such as the hour we're in right now. Minister Louis Farrakhan has been the loudest, the strongest, and the clearest voice for the redemption of our people. There's brothers sitting in that desert sand right now, and Minister Farrakhan's words are echoing in their brain. They can hear him or see him at a public gathering. There are brothers and sisters who are sitting in prisons across this country right now. And if it was not for Minister Farrakhan's work in the last 2 years in particular, they would have no hope, but because of him, they have hope. Now is a great testing period, because the enemy now is finding that he's in trouble. And whenever he's in trouble or wounded, he lashes out. And he lashes out against those who he feels will hurt him in some way or say that will make the people separate from him. So he will lash out. So the work takes a different turn. How we help the minister today is very important. We must help him more than with our mouth, more than with an applause when he comes in, but our work and our deeds and the sincerity of our heart for what he hopes to accomplish among our people is very important. I'm in another part of the world now, and I can sit in my home in Africa, and I can go over the work of the Nation of Islam like I've never had an opportunity to do before. So I'm saying that it's an hour for us to think and reflect. The talents that God has blessed you with that you've been sitting on, doing nothing with it. The things you've been putting an x-ray on machine on each other and bickering over small things, bury all of that today, because this is the hour that you have to come forth and use what God has blessed you with. Minister Farrakhan, not only the man with the mission, but he's the man of the hour. Not only is he the man of the hour, the man with the mission, but he's the man that Black America now is looking towards. They're looking at leaders, and they're looking for people who will give them clear direction. And what makes them know that this man is not a man that's going to move and bow in the wind, but this man stands firm. They watched him when he was under vicious attacks, and he didn't bow not one bit. Now it's a new round. It's a new ball game now. So I'm saying that those who are with the minister, you have to be with him. He needs more than lip service. He needs more than applause. He needs sincere and good help. He needs those that will listen to his instructions and carry it out, not those who will second guess him. And as he said to me this morning, that God has given him sight. He can see certain things now that he didn't see in the past. And if God has given him that vision to see, and you can hear it coming out of his mouth, then those of us who say we love him, now is your hour to really help him. And I'm saying that as one who didn't walk with him for a few days and get weary. I'm not a 90-day wanderer. I've been in this work for 29 years of my life. And I walked with him through thick and thin, through ups and downs, through the good times and the bad times. Some are with him as long as he can do something for you. But if this devil starts stripping everything and taking everything, I want to see where you beat in. Where those who are with you because there's a paycheck involved, I want to see how many will be there when there is no paycheck involved. So I know the time is on me. The minister is here. All praise is due to Allah. But this is the test of that hour. We went through it in one city, and the minister said there'd be no paycheck this week. I wanted to see how many would turn around and go back. So the minister is with us today. And I have the distinct honor of bringing him out. I don't want to delay it because he's here. You want to hear from him. You were waiting last week. He's here this week. Let's bring on Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy and thankful to Allah for the privilege of being in your midst once again. I have not seen you in a few days, and I guess you can see that I got a little sun. Well, that's one thing you can't hide. When you're in the presence of the sun, it'll leave a mark on you. And when you're in the presence of God, He leaves His mark on you too. He is better than sunlight. He is the light. And when we walk in the light of God, there is no darkness in our being. I was in Iraq 3 days or so before the war began, as you may have learned. I was attending a conference of approximately 400 Muslim scholars from approximately 20 nations on the earth. These Muslim scholars were called to Baghdad to offer their support spiritually and otherwise to Saddam Hussein. I was among those invited, and my son Mustafa, my son-in-law Leonard Farrakhan Mohammed, and the Middle East correspondent who writes for the Final Call, Brother Ali Baghdadi, made the trip. It was one of the most illuminating experiences for us. Last Sunday, I was in the United States, but I did not wish to speak. I wanted to be quiet and even to go away for a few days to think and reflect on what God had allowed me to see. And then at a proper time to come and report to you. It is not always wise to rush out and say what God has shown you. Sometimes you need to be quiet and to reflect on what He's showing you. And I want to share this with you all today, as we don't know how much time God gives us. And I want to say so many things to you that time will not permit me to say all that I want to say. But if Allah pleases that He allows me to say just a few things that I have in my heart for you today, then I will be satisfied. So I want you to bear with me. First, I want to talk to you about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I want to make it very clear that the man Elijah Muhammad that was in our midst for nearly 44 years was and is the clearest, most profound teacher that has ever been among us or will ever be among us. If I lived to be 1,000, it might take me just that long to catch up to his footsteps that he made while he was among us. That's profound. You'll understand it better as this day goes on. We are so disrespectful of God and of ourselves that we would not think that Allah, God, loved us enough to give us someone from himself to guide and teach us. It is wonderful to accept the prophets of Israel. We should accept the prophets of Israel, because any prophet that comes from God, no matter to whom he comes, no matter on what part of the earth he appears, we should honor and respect such man of God. Certainly, we should respect and honor the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was a universal prophet. A prophet raised not only for the Arabs, but for the entire world. But every Muslim must be clear that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave us the Quran and his example. But he was clear that 3 generations after him would no longer be of him. He was clear. He knew that hypocrisy was already budding in the ranks of the nation of Islam before ever the man passed away. Even while he was on his deathbed, envy had come up among his chief companions. He said, "Give me a piece of paper. I am going to write something down that will keep you guided on the straight path after me." Umar, one of his companions, said, "The messenger of God is hallucinating." And one of the wives of the prophet said, "You heard him. Get him a piece of paper. It is written in the Quran that every man should write a will. No matter what it is that you have left behind, write something down so that there is no dispute on your death." The prophet himself had not done this, and yet the book of God commands the prophet and all believers to make a will. He did not do it. So when he summoned for the pen and the paper, he was on his deathbed. Some of the scholars say they knew that he was going to say to them, "Ali is my successor." Ali knew the Quran better than anyone else. Ali was closer to the Prophet in terms of conduct than anyone else. But the political wrangling at the sick bed of the Prophet caused them to follow their wishes and not the Prophet's wish, even though he asked for a paper to write. They never gave him the paper. So he never wrote down his will. But those closest to him knew what he wanted. But they had another choice in mind. And instead of following the prophet's will, I'm talking about what he had spoken from his mouth, they followed the desires and devices of their own hearts. So the death of the nation of Islam was already in motion at the deathbed of the prophet. I cannot say that the 4 caliphs that preceded him were rightly guided. I cannot make that assertion, because if they were rightly guided, the nation would have been put on a solid foundation. I hope you will listen. Why are you mentioning this, Brother Farrakhan? Because in my speech to the ulamas in Baghdad, unfortunately, one of the best speeches I've given the context where it was the time and the frame of that message. 19 minutes. And the bag with the speech on tape in it was left in Baghdad by mistake, and I doubt if I'll ever see that bag again. But in that speech, I said to the ulamas, the Zionists are not your problem, and Western influence is not your problem. Your problem is today that you deviated from the path of God laid down by Prophet Muhammad. That is your problem. And corruption began in the nation of Islam when you discarded the path of the Prophet. I say that to say to you, if 3 generations after them is no longer of him, then how can you trust them to guide you to the right path when they are not on it themselves? That is my point. And if they are not on the right path, then who will guide this lost found nation to the right path? And that's where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes in. I respectfully submit to the world that God did raise the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was and is a rightly guided man. And if we follow his guidance, we are on a right path. And when we deviate from what he taught us, we fall into the abyss. And the same political wrangling that took place at the deathbed of Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago took place again in the Western Hemisphere around the sickbed of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the catastrophe is the same today in the lost found nation of Islam in the West as it is now in the lost found nation of Islam, or the nation of Islam in the East, that is the old parent division and death. And the Arabs have become a byword, not respected anywhere. Yet, with this book, Quran, the Arabs, who were nothing before the Quran, became the ruling power of the world. They led the human family in every righteous field of human endeavor, and Arab was at the root of it, and they are at the root of modern civilization. But today they sit in the desert bowing to a civilization in the West. At the mercy of Western civilization, because their scepter of rulership has been broken when they deviated from the path laid down by Prophet Muhammad. President Bush has made a serious miscalculation. And he will pay the price for that miscalculation. And unfortunately, so will many of us who believe in President Bush, who believe in the way of life of America, who believe that if he calls you to war, that you have the right to obey. And if you don't have the courage to say no, then you end up in the Gulf. And now I'm getting letters every day from our brothers and sisters in Desert Storm, begging us to give them guidance, even saying, I heard you, and I know that what you were saying was right, but I needed a job and I joined the army, and I'm in trouble today. And I told my commanding officer I refuse to kill another Muslim, and so they're persecuting me. Help me to get out of this. Every day now, letters coming from the Gulf. Why are you saying this, Brother Farrakhan? I'm coming back to the point that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is from us. He's our brother and the father of our modern consciousness. He is our brother and the father of our knowledge of self. He's our brother and he's our father in the path of true self-determination. But we have disrespected our father. And so, like the prophet Elijah, someone has to come and turn your heart back to your father, that your father's heart may turn again to you, lest the earth be smitten with a curse. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us clear guidance about this hour. There is no person who believes in him who is not clear about what's going on. In fact, even though we're somewhat disturbed, at least I can speak for myself, when I knew that the war had started, I was disturbed. I was so disturbed till I had to go and rest. And even after coming back from Baghdad, I felt that I had aged about 10 or 15 years because God showed me something. And I hope that I'm able to get it over to you in the time that we have. Dear brothers and sisters, what I'm about to say to you is directly from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his teachings to us. And I want to just remind you that know him of what he said, and you that don't know him, I'm going to tell you what he said so you can share with me my joy in knowing that God gave us a righteous guide. And that the only way we can recover the greatness of the nation of Islam is to come back to the righteous guide. As I said to them in Baghdad, I said, you have nothing to speak of now, Arabs. And I'm talking to them, and they're translating my English into Arabic for the scholars to understand. I said there were Arabs before the Quran, but they were nothing to speak of. But with this Quran, you became great. When you deviate from this, you go back to Jahiliyyah, or your state of ignorance before the Quran. And that's where you are right now, Arabs. You are nothing to speak of now. And until you return to this book and this path, you will never regain your power. Never. But that's for you and me. Look how merciful Allah has been to us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad went away from us 15 years ago. Look how merciful God has been. In 15 years, we have seen that our turning our back on him caused the fall of the nation. There was nothing happening in the black community but the Nation of Islam. Everybody was talking about Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. This little black man, Elijah Muhammad, the things he was building, the things he was doing, the things he was pointing our people toward. The scholars, the scientists, the learned people were saying, if everything else fails, we know we have Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. Do you remember? Do you remember? Yeah. And we knew we were on a right path. And then all of a sudden, we switched paths. We began to think that Elijah Muhammad was incorrect in his teaching to us. And we adopted the path of Orthodox Islam that has fallen away from the path of the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad. We started following them, and what was the result of following them and their scholarship? Where is the nation now? We could have been gone to the top, but we lost everything when we turned our back on Elijah Muhammad and the God that he represented to us. We have to now look again. Like a scientist, man, forget the emotion. Look at what happened to you. We have to now look again. Like a scientist, man, forget the emotion. Look at what happened to you. When you turn your back on that man and the God that you believed in, there ain't nothing else for you to do but turn back around and say, I made a mistake. I was a prodigal son. And I went into a strange country and tried to join myself on to be a citizen of a strange country. I tried to adopt the American way of life. I tried to adopt the American flag as my flag. I tried to adopt the white man as my brother. I went to partying again. I went to smoking dope again. I went to fornicating and committing adultery again, something Elijah Muhammad had taken me from. But Father, if you would only let me come back home. I don't need to be no big shot. I just want to be around your house again. If you will let me come back. And the father looked at his children, and if you recall his last speech to us in 1974, he mentioned the prodigal son and how the father would say, come in, get the robe, put it on him. Get the ring, put it on him. Kill the fatted calf. Why? For this that was lost is now found. This that was blind can now see. This that was dead is alive now forevermore. We have fulfilled it, brothers. And now the prodigal sons and daughters must come back to right guidance. Your power came when you adhered to the law and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We lost that power when we went from him, went from the teaching, went from the law. Now, if you would come back, then your power will come back to you. How do you know, Farrakhan? I am a witness of that. I went away from my father. I turned against my father. I followed another path, and I fell. And God found me and picked me back up. And 13 years ago, I started this path of rebuilding the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with only one person and no money. But today, I now can stand in the company of scholars and talk to them from the base of what he taught me. And the ulamas cried. And when I finished, the most elderly of them stood to his feet, tears running down his cheeks, shouting, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, God is great. They hugged me, they kissed me, and they came around me like bees around a honeycomb. And one of the scholars from Egypt asked me, who taught you? Wait, where did you get this? I said, I've never been in any of your schools. I got this from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And of course, when I mentioned his name, I never got a comment. But I am a witness that that man, Elijah Muhammad, taught us rightly. And now what did he teach that we need to know today? Let me take you on this journey to Baghdad. And what happened on the journey? My son and I, seated together, Daniel Ortega, the former leader of Nicaragua, was seated across from us, and we talked and had a little light conversation. But as we sat, it's such a strange thing to be on an airplane going out of darkness into light and then quickly back into darkness again, because in the east they are 8 hours ahead of us. So when I looked, it was light and they were serving coffee for breakfast. I put up the shade, and later I saw the beautiful Alps as we were flying over Yugoslavia. And the captain of the plane sent the stewardess to ask me to come up in the cockpit. I knew that they must have made a mistake. So I didn't go. I said, So she came back. She said, the captain wants to see you. So I went up in the cockpit. And there are 3 Arabs there. They had heard of our work in America, and they started to ask me questions. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think there's going to be war? And I said, I think so. In fact, I'm almost sure of it. They asked me a few more questions, and the answers we gave them, simple answers from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but they fell on their ears with such a profound impact that you could almost see them bowing. They were sitting. They didn't want me to leave the cockpit. I was a little thirsty. I wanted some more coffee. He said, oh, no, sit. We'll have them bring the coffee to you here. So I begged them, please, let me go back to my friends. And I went back, put the shade down, and then when I pulled the shade back up an hour or so later, we were in the darkness again. And I looked out of the window to my right, and there was one of the little wheels following the plane. No. I want you to listen. I don't want you to get so emotional. I want you to hear me well. I'm not a liar. I wouldn't lie if they put a gun to my head to make you a believer. I'll tell you the truth as God has made me to see it, know it, and understand it. And you can take it or leave it. But I'm going to tell you what I saw. There was this wheel on an angle outside the plane, and I could see, like at the rim of this disc, it was spinning. And I could see the different lights coming up from the wheel, red and green and white. The green was not so spectacular, but the red and the white were absolutely magnificent. And the red would come up like a small fine point, and then it would spread unto a light of red. Then it would go back to a small point. Then the white would come from a small point to a huge light and then go back. And this kept going for many minutes. I was just watching, exhilarated, because I knew that sign, I'm with you. I'm with you. I saw it when I went to Africa in '86, and they bombed Libya. I saw it, but the wheel was present with us then. And they wrote of it when the wheel interfered with their high-powered electronic equipment. They had to send the aircraft carrier back to Florida to be fixed, and they put it in the paper. A bright shining object was seen over the Mediterranean. This same wheel, not saying it's the same one, I don't know whether it was or not, but it's one of them, accompanying me and my party to the Middle East. And it just stayed there. Now, I just wanted to be sure that I wasn't seeing things. I don't smoke and I don't drink, so I know I wasn't high or nothing like that. So I nudged my son. I said, Mustafa, I said, I want you to change places with me and look out that window. Come here, Mustafa. I want you to bear witness that your father's not lying. I said, Mustafa, I said, look out the window and tell me what you see. And then he saw it. And then I asked him to describe to me the activity that you see. And he saw the same red light, the same white light, and a faint green. Now, my son-in-law, Leonard, he don't believe nothing unless you show him. I mean, he's not one of these type of persons that is gullible. I mean, he's very, I have a tendency to doubt before you make him believe. So I said, let me get Leonard over here. So I said, Leonard, I want you to come look out this window and see what you see. He sat there and he peeped out the window. And he looked back with a strange look on his face. I said, what do you think it is, Leonard? He said, I don't know. Could it be a plane? I said, yeah, there's planes that pass us in the night, all right. But they fly either so many feet above, so many feet below, and when they pass, they don't hang with you for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, they pass and it's like a whoop and it's gone. But this thing was laying with us. After Leonard saw it, I said, tell me, what did you see? He saw the lights. I got back in my seat I would peep out occasionally, it was still there. After about a half hour, I didn't see it anymore. And a half hour from then, we landed in Jordan. And I went to bed. And I'm thinking, what did those lights mean? Because it looked like he was giving me a signal. You know, when you see something going from small to large, then back, and then out, and then back, and you're looking at it, you know how they do with lights on a ship. They flash these lights. If you know how to read it, they're telling you something. Well, I figured they were telling me something, but I was a little dense. I had to go somewhere and think about what the thing meant. I said, I wonder they're telling me don't go no further. Stop. So you're going into a war zone, man. Maybe I should stop and turn around. Well, I didn't figure that out, so the next day the plane came, we went on into Baghdad. We attended the conference, and I spoke at this conference. But I want to tell you, dear brothers and sisters, I didn't want to speak. And you know, something had to be really wrong for the minister not to want to speak if they asked me to speak. But the reason I didn't want to speak was because every one of the scholars were calling for a holy war. Now, if you don't understand Muslims, you don't understand that term. That is serious. When a holy war is declared, every Muslim on earth has to fight. Men, women, children. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when holy war is declared, even the babies, they don't do nothing but throw their baby bottle at the enemy. Everybody got to fight. I know I'm taking a little time, you know. Maybe we ought to get a big clock and put it right up there in the center so I'll be able to see the time, so I won't go over time. But I do want to say what's on my heart, if you will permit me. Brothers and sisters, when I heard these men calling for holy war, and here's what they were saying. They were saying we should in every country hit American establishments, American interests, destroy them. Now I'm in the midst of this. And I could see the newspapers back here saying, Farrakhan attends a terrorist conference. And that's all I would need after all that they've said evil about me, and they're trying to make me a terrorist. Now I'm in a framework where if I say anything, I'm in trouble. And if I'm in trouble, that means all of us get in the same trouble. So I'm nervous now. I said, man, if I say anything, they're going to frame me in a terrorist context, and all the believers can be attacked on the basis of how they write. So I really was nervous about saying anything. I went back to my room and we discussed it. And we decided that I should speak. It was too late for me to put something down, and I didn't know what to put down. So I said, Allah, I'm going in your name, and I pray that you guide every word that I speak. We went there, and brother and sister, I made 4 points And I'm only too sorry that that tape is not present as a witness. The first point, Islam is what made the Arabs great. Deviation from Islam is what has put us, the nation of Islam, the world of Islam, in the condition that it is in. 2, second point was that I am a Muslim and I hate to see Muslims fighting Muslims. I said in the desert now 4 out of 6, or 4 to 6 out of every 10 soldiers are black and Hispanic. And I said they didn't come here to kill Muslims. They joined the armed forces because America does not provide jobs for poor people, for black people. They are promised education and travel, and they are lured into the armed services. I said, and these young men don't want to sell dope. They don't want to engage in criminal activity, so they join the army because the army offers them a job and a chance to feed their families and the possibility of education. But they didn't know that they would bear the brunt of America's wicked foreign policy objectives. And so they sit in the desert. Well, these men that are calling for jihad, they don't care why they're there. All they know is you're there and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's an awful predicament for you to be in the middle of a holy war. Now, if you know anything about Muslims, and you don't, most of you don't, Muslims are some of the most dangerous fighters ever to get involved with. You do not want to get in no trouble with no Muslims. Because the Muslims, particularly in that part of the world, they're trained from the cradle to love Allah. And if they fight in Allah's way and they die, they go immediately to paradise. And they send their enemy immediately to hell. And you don't understand how it is when you're dealing with people who love death like you love life. They don't fight like ordinary people. If you look at the intifada of the Palestinian children throwing stones at tanks and showing themselves willing to die, and their parents not weeping and wailing as though God has done them something wrong, the parents saying, I regret, I only have one son to die to get rid of the Jews. This is serious. This is serious, brothers. Muslims don't need what you need. You may need bulletproof vests. You may need an anti-tank weapon. Muslim goes out to battle armed with God. He may only have a sword. He may only have a rifle. But the rifle in the hand of a servant of God is more deadly than an anti-tank weapon in the hand of a disbeliever. And so the Muslims, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, they whipped Russia. Russia had to get out, running, and the ill-equipped Mujahideen drove them out in the name of Allah. You don't know about early Muslim warriors, their courage, their bravery is unmatched in the annals of war history. They're over there now, coking up some of the soldiers. A young lady wrote home and said she had a severe cold. She went to the doctor of her little squadron or command or company, and he gave her some pills. She took the pills. She noticed the cold didn't go away, but she felt, like she was out of it. She went to another doctor, and when he looked at the bottle and the pills, he said, throw these away, flush these down the toilet, get rid of these. It was cocaine. You think they're going to have a ground war over there, and they don't know what they're fighting for? And them soldiers over there that they fighting know why they're fighting, and you don't know why you're there? Can you fight strong when you don't know why you're fighting? Can you fight strong when you're only fighting for your life? No, you can't. There gotta be a cause bigger than your life. And the cause of God is always bigger than any other cause. That's why warriors for God are the greatest warriors on the earth, because there's no cause worth dying for than the cause of God. Brothers, sisters, when I heard those men calling for holy war, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me that no ordinary leader can call no holy war. Allah calls that. And he told me that when you hear it, the call, it'll come straight into your ear. You ain't gonna hear it on no telephone. You ain't gonna turn on no television. Allah will speak directly to you. And when you hear him speak, you don't hear nobody talking to you in your head. If anybody start talking to you up inside your head, you know that's God. Get up and go to work. Well, I knew all of that from him, so I just went and told them in a nice way. I said, I hear you all talking about holy war. I said, and certainly it is a principle in Islam. Jihad. It comes from the Arabic root jahada, which means to strive, to exert oneself to the fullest against an object of disapproval. But I said to them, the greatest jihad is the jihad you're running from. And that's the jihad when you struggle against the weakness of yourselves. And it is the weakness of ourselves that put us in this condition. And I said, we must be careful that this is not a political objective of those seeking political ends and vainglorious ends, using God as a shield for an unclean objective, calling it holy war. I said, holy war is not for Saddam Hussein. Holy war is not for any Muslim leader. Holy war is for Allah, and for Allah alone. They were calling King Fahd and the rest that sided with America hypocrites, and we're going to get them. And I said, it's nice that you, who were last night's hypocrite, can remember who today's hypocrites are. Now listen, I'm sitting up in their capital. I ain't got the FOI around me like you are around me today, brothers. I'm just there in the arms of Allah, and his arms are sufficient. You know what I mean? I said to them, I said, if Arab nationalism had not taken precedence over principles of the Quran, 1 million Muslims would not be dead today in the war between Iraq and Iran. Now, I'm in the Iraqi capital now, but I believe in Allah. The second in command to Saddam Hussein is sitting right in front of me. I said, you stumbled. In that one, maybe you can redeem yourselves in this one. I said, but make sure that your intentions are right, because Allah sees the intentions. And if your heart is not clean and your cause is not just, then you can call holy war all day long. The Holy One will not be with you. Brothers, I told them about our work in America among black people. Told them how many black people that came over on the boat were Muslims. Many of your first fathers were Muslims. We didn't know nothing about Christianity, brothers and sisters. There was no Christianity in Africa. When they brought our fathers to America, you didn't know nothing about that. White people were Christians in Europe. You were in Africa, and Islam was your religion. Most of the slaves were Muslims or animists. And the white man who fought the Crusades against Muslims, he didn't want to see no Muslims in the New World. And that's what Roots was all about with Kunta Kinte. You don't call yourself Kunta Kinte, you call yourself Toby. No, I'm calling you Toby. And I'm going to make you call yourself Toby. He takes your names and he gives you his. He takes your religion and he gives you his. He takes your mind and he gives you his. So that you are no longer yourself today, but you are the carbon copy of your enemy. Y'all all right? I'm almost there. Brothers and sisters, I said, but thanks to Allah, Islam has come to us in America. And we are coming up out of our state of ignorance by the light of Allah and the light of this book, Quran. And now we, who yesterday were not known for wisdom, are beginning to speak with wisdom. And then lastly, I said to them, this is a problem essentially between Muslims. The Kuwaitis are Muslims. The Iraqis are mainly Muslims. The Saudi king is a Muslim. Mubarak of Egypt is a Muslim. Assad is a Muslim. What are Christians and Jews doing involved in a Muslim problem? If it is not oil, then you have no right there. So oil is what brought Christians and Jews in. It ain't got nothing to do with solving problems between Muslims. This book shows Muslims how to solve their problems. I said to the ulama, send me back to America with a resolution from the 400 ulamas asking me to say to President Bush, step back. And let all the politicians step back. Since it is a problem essentially between Muslims, let the Muslim scholars and jurists hear this problem and render an Islamic decision. Not an Arab decision, but an Islamic decision. And make it binding on the parties involved. Now, when the speech was over, and I'm sorry I cannot capture the spirit of that moment, they rushed me. And at that point, Farrakhan became the center, it's the truth, of the conference. I was so nervous, I had to excuse myself to go upstairs and listen to what I had said to make sure that I hadn't really messed up. But when I heard it back, I said, oh, Allah, thank you. And when I went to bed that night, about 3 in the morning, something just told me, get up. And I got up and said, go to the window. I went to the window and looked out. There was the wheel again. This time it was no red, no white, just green. And I think I know what that green meant. Now let me tell you what God was showing me. That the war, like that red light, it would start small. And just like that red expanded into a huge ball of red light, the war would engulf the whole earth. The green was minimal, but the white light started like that. And then it became even bigger than the red. What that symbolizes is that the light of God's truth will be established on the earth after the war. And that light will engulf the whole planet. They'll be under that light, and the kingdom of God will be established on the earth, but not until war comes. Now, if you go to the United Nations right now, you will see on the outside of the United Nations, and they shall beat their spears into plowshares and their swords into pruning hooks, and they shall study war no more. Have you heard that before? But you should go read that in the scripture. See, that's not the way it starts. It don't start like that. It starts like this. Take your plowshares and your pruning hooks and beat them into swords. I'm calling all the mighty men of war, and I'm gathering the mighty men of war down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And there will I plead with them for my people. It's about a people that don't even know how important they are. In the sight of God, God is getting ready to kill oodles and oodles of people for a special people who don't think nothing of themselves. But the whole world has messed up. The Jews have messed up. They had all the prophets and they deviated. The Christians have messed up. You had Jesus and you turned him down. The Muslims have messed up. You had Muhammad and the perfect path, and you tore it up. But here's a people that all the builders of the world have rejected. The stone that the builders rejected. Don't nobody consult you when they make their plans to do this or that. Nobody called you up. They never call your leaders whom you admire. If you admire Jesse, when do they sit down and call Jesse? Jesse has to intrude. They don't call Jesse. They don't call Hooks. They don't call Jordan. Nobody that you call your leader does anybody in the world call when they have a problem, when they want to cut up the world. Ain't nobody said nothing to you. Because you don't count for nothing in their eyes, but in the eyes of Allah. Every one of you are sacred. And he told Elijah Muhammad, and Elijah Muhammad told us that he said, I will give nations, plural, for your life. And if you read Isaiah the prophet, Isaiah bears him witness. He said he will give nations for you. For you. And you think you're nothing, but this whole drama is being played out for you. And I want to show you how, if I never talk to you again, when you leave here today, you just watch, and you will know that a teacher from God has been in your midst. Elijah Muhammad didn't make no mistake. Look, the stone that the builders rejected, he chooses for his own people. He said, I'm going to choose a foolish people, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. I'm going to choose a people that were nothing, and I'm going to use them to bring to naught the things which are, the things which exist, the things which people marvel at. I'm going to take a foolish people, and I'm going to vex you with a foolish nation. Is there anybody on earth more foolish than us? I don't like to call us fools, brothers, but I've never seen anybody on this earth more foolish. And I have been all over the earth, and I haven't found a fool bigger than us yet. We are so foolish till the white man don't have to be among us. He has already programmed us for self-destruction. And he can walk on about his business and we'll destroy each other. That's a fool, brother. What are you doing in the Saudi desert? Well, I'm fighting for my country. And you listen to the brothers on the TV when they put them on. We're ready. Sound like 63rd and Cottage. 47th in Indiana. We're ready. We just want to kick some butt. All that macho gonna leave in a few days. That's going, brother. This man is so crazy. I'm talking about the white man now. And you sisters, you want equality. You don't know that God created you and gave you equality. Not equality with men in the things that men do best, but equality with men in that God has given you things that you excel a man in. And God gives the man things that he excels you in, and he makes the two natures to complement each other. Huh? But now, in your madness, following this crazy white woman, she want to be equal. You ain't never had no problem with these brothers. You rule 99% of us. And the 10th, the 99th, or the 100th one don't know it yet. You following this crazy white woman, we feminists, we want equality. So now you in the army. You equal now. You got a 60-pound backpack on you. You in the desert with a gun. And this crazy bush take you away from your babies. Leaving your babies at home with a husband to put a bottle in their mouth, and you in the desert fighting for what? You gone mad. Following a crazy man. A madman in the White House. Yes, he's mad. He's mad because because he's an opponent of God. He calls Saddam Hussein mad because he sees all of the armament that he has arrayed against Saddam. He don't see all of the armament that God has arrayed against him. And you're caught in the middle. So I watched a poor mother on television saying, I have 9 children, 9 sons, and all 9 of them are in the desert. They didn't leave me one. That's why I want peace. More black brothers from Washington, D.C., from Detroit and Chicago in the desert. I told you they were planning on your life. You take me for an entertainer? Is that what you think I am? Well, check the show out. It's a lot of lights and fireworks. And it ain't the 4th of July, brother. America taking you from your children. Did you know that after the war in Vietnam, America lost 58,000? But it was revealed recently that 60,000 Americans committed suicide coming back from the war. More died in America from suicide than died in the war. What do you think our women are going to be when they come back from that theater of operation? What good will they be to their children? You want equality, huh? I think you all would be wise to come out of this wicked people and join on to your own kind. For the time of this world is at hand. On the 3rd day of the conference, after I saw them green lights, I told my son-in-law, let's go. This place is going to be bombed. I knew that right after the 15th, he was coming in. If he didn't come in exactly on the time that he said, he was coming in shortly thereafter. They asked me, do you think he'll bomb? I said, oh, yes, he will. In my speech, I said, President Bush can't pull back. I said he talked himself into a war. His own arrogance won't allow him to pull back. I said, but neither can Saddam Hussein. This is in my speech. I said, I looked at Saddam Hussein and I asked myself, don't he see 28 nations arrayed against him with this technological weapons of destruction? Does not he see this? And I answered, yes, he sees it. Then I asked, well, why doesn't he pull back? I said, because he can't. He's fixed. I said, well, who fixed him? I said, neither Saddam Hussein nor President Bush have anything to do with this. I said, this is not Saddam Hussein's hour. This is not President Bush's hour. This hour don't belong to Mubarak or Assad or Deng Xiaoping. This hour belongs only to God. I said, the one you say in your prayers 32 times a day, you say, Allah is Maliki Yawmiddin. I said, what do you mean? He's master of the day of judgment. Well, if he's master of the board, then ain't nobody moving on the board but by his permission. He's moving Saddam, and he's moving Bush, and he's moving the world because it's the time of the end. This is the day of God. This ain't no white man day. This ain't no black man day. This is God's day. And if you're not right with God, you go down with the enemy. Make no mistake about it, brother and sister. This is God's day. You ain't got no power to do nothing against this white man. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote, "The nations are angry," from the book of Revelations. "The nations are angry, and thy wrath is come. It is time that the dead should be judged and given justice." The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that not only are all the nations angry, but God himself is angry. Don't you think God has had enough of the foolishness of men and kings and rulers and people? What do you think the Bible is there in your hand for? Did you not know that a day was coming when all of these things would be judged? You are at that time now. Ain't no hiding place. You can't run to no rock, brother. When I got out of Baghdad, you know how we do when we have a funeral and one of our dead brothers is in front of us? You put your hand over your heart as if to say, you know, my heart is with you. We mourn your loss, you know. When that plane was lifting off from Baghdad, what a great city, an ancient city with so much history of the three great religions in the city of Baghdad. But as that plane lifted, I put my hand over my heart because I knew that Baghdad that I saw that day, I would never see it like that again. And the tears rolled down my cheek as I grieved inwardly for the people that I left behind in Baghdad. In the very hotel where I stayed is where CNN had their microphones out the window as the bombs were falling. Just like it was when I was in Libya and they bombed Libya, the bomb fell just a few steps from the hotel where we were staying. That vision that I was given is so clear and so real. Now let's get to the climax of this. And I hope you'll pardon me for being a little long. Dear brothers and sisters, the next day, the third day of the conference, which was the last day, Saddam Hussein himself came to address the ulama. And to watch this man was an experience that I would like to share with you. He came into the auditorium, his soldiers around him. They remind me much of the FOI, the way they respond to him. His own camera people came in front. And then he made his way through the auditorium to meet with certain quote-unquote special delegates who were there from different parts of the world. And the head of the Ministry of Awqaf brought him over to where I was seated, and we met very briefly. And I looked in his eyes. I didn't want to smile. All the others were embracing him and kissing him, and I did not wish to embrace or kiss him. I just wished to shake his hand and to study him. I did not want to be seen embracing a man that I know in a few days is going to kill my brothers and sisters and be killed by my brothers and sisters. The moment was too filled with I'm trying to find the right words, too filled with truth that was bigger than the moment, that I could not express myself in that moment as though I didn't see the moments coming after that moment. So I shook his hand very firmly and looked in his eyes, and I said, may Allah bless you and guide you. And he looked me in my eyes and he said, Barakallah, and something else in Arabic, which means, may Allah bless you. And then he went to the rostrum to speak. I want to give you my impression of this man. He's not crazy, brothers and sisters. He's highly intelligent. He's highly intelligent, very non-emotional. He sat, never stood at the podium. He sat down and spoke. He never raised his voice. But these are some of the words that he said. We have been preparing for this for a long time. He said, America, if they attack us, I can assure you, victory is ours. Because we do not fight in our name. We fight in the name of God. Listen to his words now. He said, our battle cry is not long live Iraq. Our battle cry is Allahu Akbar. God is great. Not America. God is great. He still hasn't raised his voice. He said, the first week or two of the war will be America's climax. He said, after the first 2 weeks, the battle then is ours. He said, they have these technological weapons. They push buttons. He said, they don't have courage to meet us on the field of battle. They push buttons. They send their planes. But after the first 2 weeks, he said, they will have to come and meet us on the ground. He said, and they have nothing to fight for. He said, how do you compare the fight of a man who is wrong? We have not attacked America. We only took back what belonged to us. He said, we are fighting from the right. And therefore we have the will to fight. He said, we are up under the desert. He said, and when they pass over, we will come up. You didn't hear me. I'm just telling you what he said. I don't know whether it's true or not, but we'll find out in just a few days. And this is reported in the news. I know America got it. He said, we're in the desert. We're under the sand, under the sand. He said, we will have them swimming in their own blood. And you know, when he said that, my mind went to the prophets of the Old Testament, where the scripture says, since they delighted themselves in killing, God gave them their own blood to drink. And they were drunk with their own blood as with sweet wine. The old prophets talked like this. He talked about liberating Jerusalem. He said, we will not stop until Jerusalem is free from foreign domination. And as I looked at him, my mind went right to the lessons. Why did we take Jerusalem from the devils? How long ago? And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that when you read the lessons, you got to read the lessons in the past, the present, and the future perfect tense. Otherwise, the lessons don't mean that much. But did Salahuddin capture Jerusalem? Come on. Did he take it from the infidels? Where was Salahuddin from? He's from Baghdad, from Iraq. He's from Baghdad, from Iraq. And so they're comparing him now to the new Salahuddin, who feels he's the one to liberate Jerusalem. Now they're going to take Jerusalem. If it's not today, it's coming. Now what does that mean to a Christian? All right, Christians, let's go in our Bibles now. In the book of Matthew, I don't have my Bible with me. My Bible was in my bag and it got taken in Baghdad. Somebody got it. But that Bible, listen, don't throw no Bibles away, Muslims. Savior said, look in your poison book. That Bible, it's literally alive today. There's no words there that don't have meaning. Matthew, in the book of Matthew, Matthew is writing his account of Jesus. And the disciples are asking Jesus, when will these things come? And what will the sign be? And Jesus starts talking. Listen to his words. There will be wars and rumors of wars. And kingdom will rise against kingdom. Nation against nation. There will be earthquakes in diverse places. There will be famine and pestilence, but these are just the beginnings of sorrows. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then he goes on to tell them how when these sorrows are beginning, which you see going on now, there's another thing happening inside the house. Now I want to talk to you Muslims and you colored people. or Negroes. Because, see, you are involved in these prophecies. We are involved. And look what happens. It says, some of you are going to be delivered up. You'll be betrayed. And they'll deliver you up and they'll kill you. And you'll be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Now, you know, Christians, you believe in Jesus and you love Jesus, and you are not hated for Jesus' name. But we are hated for the name of Elijah Muhammad. And when they get finished with the propaganda, brother, they'll start turning families against us. They want to paint us as some terrorists. We siding with those that are killing your little sons and daughters who had no business over there in the first place. But then among you are deadly hypocrites, male and female. You see the enemy working against every black leader of strength. And the way to get that leader is through those close to him. They don't really need the ones close to the leader, but they like for the betrayal to come from the mouth of someone close to the leader. Then they come in behind that one to work. See? They didn't need Judas to get Jesus, but Judas was convenient because he was one of the disciples of Jesus. Isn't that something? Who killed Indira Gandhi? Come on. Was one of her security guards. She's walking among her own security. They turn on. Who killed the number 2 man in the PLO less than 2 weeks ago? Security guards whom he trusted. They turned on him, is that right? What are they trying to do to Saddam Hussein now? Bomb not just military installations, bomb civilians. So that when death and blood is in the streets, they'll say, look what our leader led us into. And they'll say, we must get rid of him. And they want somebody in his own ranks to rise up and kill him. Look at these black leaders that people right around them have turned. Well, who do you think they're after? I mean, do you think that they're after me? I mean, do you think that they're after Farrakhan? Of course they are. I'm just one of those that they're after, but I think I'm a main one. They search my family members. Is there one in the family we can turn? Search my wife. Can I turn her? Well, let's look at those close around him. Is there somebody hurt? Is there somebody dissatisfied? Is there somebody that he promised something to that they didn't get? Is there somebody disillusioned? Is there somebody disaffected? Because I'm looking for somebody to turn. Eh? Well, it's only right that the devil should try you. It ain't wrong. The white man is on his job. That's the devil I'm talking about. He's trying you. Are you here to deliver me to the enemy? I don't know. I see my sister writing, she was taking plenty of notes. Usually we don't let nobody in the mosque in the older days with no pencil and paper. And you take that in your head. But you can get the tape. You don't have to rely on your penmanship. This is not casting any aspersions, my dear sister. But who will you deliver your notes to? Who wants to know what I'm saying? See? Which ones among you are to be my hypocrites? The messenger has already told me that one out of every three that I teach would be my enemy. That's a hell of a thing to know before you even get started. So if three accept today, I know one among them three may turn. The scripture says, and the serpent used this tail and pulled down a third part of the stars of heaven. So ain't none of you in here, with all that you think you know, ain't nobody safe from the snare of Satan, because the devil that we're dealing with, and I'm talking about the white man, the devil that we're dealing with is a wise devil. He don't just trap fools. He traps scholars, scientists. Look at what the Quran says. The devil makes a boast to God. He says, you caused me to remain disappointed and judged me to be erring. I'm going to lie in wait for them in your straight path. And that's a smart demon. I'm not coming outside of the path, because all of them outside of the path, I got them. They're already mine. I want to show you, God, how powerful I am. I'll come right in Sirat al-Mustaqim, right in your straight path. I'm coming in your word. Ain't nothing straighter than God's own word. And he said, I'll make all of them deviate. And Allah said, whosoever will follow you, I will certainly fill hell with you all. And there's another scripture that says, hell starts talking. It says, hell enlarged herself and said, did you have any more? Now, to conclude, beloved, Allah says in the Quran, in the Bible, in the book of Luke, in the 20th chapter, Luke starts talking about Jerusalem. And look at what Luke said. These are signs that wise men should, and even foolish men, should pay attention to. In the scripture it says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed or surrounded with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let those that are in Judea, that's that whole area, that is now the Middle East, let those that are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto, for these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Now look at Jerusalem. Is she surrounded by armies now? Did a Scud missile fall in Jerusalem? Did one fall in Haifa? Did some fall in Tel Aviv? Jerusalem is surrounded with armies. It's telling everybody, man, get out. Then in another place, it says, when the abomination that bringeth desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, stands in the holy place, know that the end is nigh. Now, what is the abomination that bringeth desolation? Y'all all right? It is a human being filled with the hatred of God and what God represents. Lord, the Jews celebrate Hanukkah at around the same time that the Christians celebrate Christmas. And their Hanukkah celebration is about a man that stood in the temple who hated the God of Israel and hated the Jewish way of life. And he became the ruler over them through deception, and closed their schools and denied the Jews their literature and brought a pig in and slaughtered it on the temple, in the sanctuary of the temple. And the Maccabees rose up to fight him, retook the temple, purified it, and the Jews celebrate Hanukkah now, celebrating the retaking of the temple. But that was only a sign. See? Somebody that hated Master Farad Muhammad stood up in the house of Master Farad Muhammad. And the house became desolate. Right. After a while, this whole mosque that was filled with people, you come back, you don't see them anymore. They're gone. You can't deny it. That hatred was spewed from the very rostrum where the love was once taught for Elijah Muhammad and his teacher. Then hatred was coming from the same rostrum. And the house became desolate and the people became desolate. And now the man of hatred of God, the white man himself, is now standing in the Holy Land. He's standing in Arabia. He who hates Islam and fought it every step of the way is now standing in the Holy Land. When you see the abomination that bringeth desolation standing in the holy place, the end has come. And now if you turn to the book of Revelations, I'm finished. The book of Revelations talks about trumpets. And y'all all right? Y'all want me to go home? I know it's a Super Bowl. I know it's a Super Bowl. But some Giants are playing today, Doctor. And it ain't no New York Giants. Excuse me, we'll get to that in a minute. When this is over, you can go see all the Super Bowl you want. But that ain't really where it's at. You where it's at. And where you are is where it is. Brothers and sisters, look. You know, I was sitting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad one day, and that man, he's so skillful. He knows how to plant something in your head and then 5 years down the road, it pops up at the right time to give you guidance, believe me, I wouldn't lie. I'm sitting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad one day, a whole table full of people. I'm sitting directly to his left. And he's talking on another subject entirely. And then in the middle of the talk on the other subject, he looks at me and says, you know, brother, if there was any symbol that I could choose to represent myself and my work, it would be a trumpet. And he went on with his talk. I don't know what he's talking about, to tell you the truth. Then about 10 minutes later, he comes back, still talking to the people at the table. Then he said, yes, brother, and have the trumpet coming out of the corner of the page. And then he went right on with what he was doing. Now, I don't know nothing about what he means, trumpet, corner of the page. I ain't got time. He's talking about so many things. I don't have to ask him, what page, what trumpet? So he's gone now. He's gone away. And I'm in the position to try to rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Then, boop, it pops right up. Trumpet. So you notice on the Final Call newspaper, you see a trumpet. And you see it coming out of the corner of the page. That didn't come from me. Some of you think Farrakhan is deviating. He didn't set up no Muhammad Speaks. If he's going to set up a paper, he should have set it up just like the messenger had it. Muhammad Speaks. He didn't tell me to do that. He told me to a trumpet. And he had it say, come out of the corner of the page. That's exactly how it is. Then he told me, you do exactly as you see me do. Go exactly like you see me go. What was the first newspaper of the Nation of Islam? It was called the Final Call to Islam. So I started like he started. I put it the Final Call, had the trumpet coming out of the corner. He didn't tell me what color to make the trumpet. But I made it gold with black in it. Because I knew then that I was his trumpet. I was being purified, but I wasn't quite pure yet, so I put black in the trumpet. To let you know that even though I'm not a purified man, but what's in my mouth is as pure as God is, because it is his word. I'm not pure, but the word is, but I'm being purified. Look at the Quran. Lord, I want you to know me. I don't talk about myself, but it's time that I talk about myself. Before he left, he gave me 2 chapters of the Quran to read. Chapter 74, chapter 75. Both of these surahs deal with a man arising. It goes like this: O thou who wrappest thyself up, arise and warn. That's the first command. Get up and tell the people. I got up in 75. I wasn't pure. I had fallen in the mud. And you know what the mud is. But he said, arise and warn. Thy Lord do magnify. Thy garments do purify. Uncleanness do shun. Don't talk about when I clean up, I'll be back. I got a couple of things I got to do. I got to get myself together. You can't get yourself together out there. You get yourself together in here with the rest of us trying to get ourselves together. There ain't no getting together out there, brother. Don't put off for tomorrow what you know you got to do today. You got to come now and get yourself in order. You're dirty, and we got to be clean because God got something he wants us to do. The trumpet came out of the corner. It had black in the trumpet. And you never saw a picture of me for the first 3 years of the paper, except on the third page, at the bottom of the third page. I put my picture on the bottom of the third page because 3 means trial. And as I preached other than the truth of my father for nearly 3 years, I would have to remain on the bottom of the third page until I passed the same amount of time up that I was down. And now you see my picture on the front page. It never was on the front page before. Ain't nothing that I've done wasn't guided by him. That's why I look intelligent. It ain't that I'm intelligent. I'm guided by a man of supreme knowledge. I'm not a man that's just out here doing something. I'm being guided in what I'm doing. I'm the same as you are. I would be a walking fool if I didn't have a guide. And that's why I can say even more than the prophet David, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I don't want for nothing that he don't give me. Yeah, I think you should applaud. Yeah. When I started this teaching back up, I was raggedy as a bowl of Yakima. Whatever that is. I had foot foolers on. Shoe on the top, nothing on the bottom. Had a refrigerator that looked brand new because there was nothing in it. I was in bad shape. Boy, I was so glad when I came back to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and got my life back in order. And look at what he's making of me. Not what I'm making of myself, what he is making of me. I'm not an extraordinary person. I'm just an ordinary brother. But my life is in the life of a master. Is in the hands of a master. Let me finish this by saying, you know that 23rd Psalm? He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou preparest a table for me in the midst of my enemies. Do you know that these enemies would like to starve me? They try to block every way that money could come to me to help me. But the table was spread before me in the midst of my enemies. I can invite many, many, many people to come and sit and eat at my table. Ain't no end to the bowl of soup. Under that bowl is another bowl. And under that other bowl is another bowl. And under that is beans and more beans. I'm not bragging, but the Lord is my shepherd. And when the Lord is your shepherd, man, are you rightly guided? Well, look at this. The messenger said, brother, there are 7 trumpets coming from behind this one. He said, when this one stopped, there's 7 more trumpets. I don't think you want to hear none of those. You see this trumpet? This is the lips. A trumpet don't blow itself. It can be the most beautiful horn ever made, but somebody got to put wind in it. And somebody got to play it. What you're hearing is the trumpet. But you don't see the one that's playing the horn. But out of the trumpet is coming the final call. You know what a final call means? You know what? You travel, and they tell you final call. Are you supposed to pick up your pace when you hear final call? If it's the final call, don't slow down. Get busy. Run to your gate. Get where you're supposed to be. This is it. So when I said to the press, I ain't talking to you no more. I'm through with you. In my last press conference, that's the end. That's over. It's over now. I don't talk to the press no more. I'm done with you. Why you say it like that, Parker? I just want you to know that we won't have no more conversations. And you, if you want to know what Farrakhan is saying, only way you're going to hear me, come here. I'm not going to no colleges, and my ministers ain't going there either. You through with the public. We've warned them. We're coming out of there now. You heard, you responsible. The minute the war broke out, y'all broke to the mosque. You know where to go. You know where to go because you want to know how much time you got left. You ain't got hardly none. I'm telling you now. So you that's been delaying changing your life, you ain't got too much more time to do no playing around, brother. You get your act together today. Sister, it's the same with you. This war is going to engulf the earth. Look at this. You want to hear about these trumpets? Look, there was a man that had 7 seals, right? Then they had 7 trumpets. Man, and these trumpets, when they started blazing, doctor, let me show you. It said there were 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets preparing themselves to sound. Now, when the man that's to speak the word is shut up, then the other trumpets start sounding. Now, I'm telling you, it's my time to just be quiet. So, you know, whether you see me a lot or don't see me anymore, I've done my job. I have warned you, and that was my job. I have been faithful to my leader and teacher. And what he wanted me to tell you, I've told you. Now it's time for me to be quiet. And them 7 trumpets now, it's time for them to blast. And since you didn't dance when this trumpet played, then them other trumpets will have you jumping. I want you to hear me well, brother and sister. Y'all all right? Me too. Do you understand what I mean when I say you didn't hear this trumpet? You don't understand? Yeah, I'm going to explain it. Be glad to explain it. See, to hear somebody don't mean you hear and applaud. Right on, brother man. When you hear a word of God, that word is directing you to a particular and specific action that you must take with your life, with your family. And if you hear it but don't do it, it don't benefit none of us. Is that right? Well, it's time now. When the Son of Man came among the bones, what did he do? He spoke the word of God to the bones. Did the bones shake? The bones rattle? The bones roll. But the bones never got up. So the Son of Man went back to his sin and said, look, the bones ain't doing right. He said, well, don't worry. Don't talk to the bones no more. Go talk to the winds. Prophesy unto the winds and let the winds blow on the bones. That's where we're at right now. My time to talk to you is up. I don't talk to you no more. I talk to God and the winds. And they're already blowing on you. See, you, black people, you deserve a whipping. I'm sorry. I love you and am willing to give my life to see our people free. But you deserve a whipping. And what we deserve is here. You have joined gangs. You. And you're killing your own brothers for what? 17-year-old boy in New York had a jacket on, and somebody wanted his jacket. They took him in the car, took his clothes. They beat him, then they shot him and dumped him out on the road. Some mother's crying over her baby killed. In the line of fire between two black people gone mad. A black man standing at a telephone puts the phone to his ear, and another black man walks up and puts a gun to his head and says, I want your money. He reaches in his pocket and he gives the man all his money. And the black man puts the gun right to his heart and pulls the trigger. If it were not for a little cassette player in his pocket, the man would be dead. But look at the viciousness in you for one another. You're vicious people. You're filled with bitterness and hatred. So my word don't mean nothing to you. You shake, you rattle, you clap your hands, but my day is over now. I'm going to my Father for my reward, and I don't mean I'm dying. I got a lot of living to do. But I've done my job. And none of you can say that I did not warn you. I taught night and day. And I drove myself almost to death. Doctors don't know why I'm still living. Because no man talked like I talk for the time that I talk. Day after day, week after week, year after year. But it's over now. Now, the winds. They're gonna blow on you until you get tired of your own blood and are ready to bow down and submit to God. This white man that you love so well is preparing your death now. You would not listen? I feel sorry for you. But God is hardening my heart now, where I don't have the same feeling that I used to have. I used to beg God, please give me more time. Don't kill them. Don't kill them. But I don't talk like that no more. Because when I see Bloods and Crips killing each other, when I see the Stones and the disciples slaughtering each other, when I see Muslims at each other's throat, when I see envy, jealousy, hatred in us, with all the teaching that we have, all the leaders that have come and given their lives for us, but it don't make no damn difference. We have not changed. So God has a whipping for you now. I'm out of it. I've done my job. And now the winds. 7 trumpets. Look at them. Yeah, I feel sorry for some of you. But you know, I realize now what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me. Teaching will never make this people what God wants them to be. It's not teaching. We need a whipping. And when those winds blew on those bones, did those bones come together? And they stood up, an exceedingly great army. That's what's at your door, brothers. I don't like to be a bringer of bad news, but that's what's at our door. Yeah? They have prepared my death, the enemies. And there's some of you hypocrites that sit among us that are in league with them. Some of you hate me so much. And if I asked you, why do you hate me? What have I done? I lifted up the name of Elijah Muhammad. Is that a crime? Are you angry with me because God has made me successful? All these pretenders that followed my father, claiming to be the one that he wanted in his place. You can see who he wanted in his place now. Ain't nobody doing his work but me. Talk to me. Ain't nobody doing his work but Farrakhan. Why? He ain't here to give me no money. I'm not doing this for no damn money. I'm doing it because I love that man, and I love you, and I want to see you alive. But why do you hate me? Some of you want to be the leader. You don't want this job. It should have been me. Don't nobody talk like that but a damn fool or a nut. You don't want to be no leader over black people. That is not something that you want. That's something that God put on you, and you run from it until you can't run no more. I can't run no more. I am the one that he left. And if you had not fought me, you would still have a nation. And if I thought that I could do the job 15 years ago, I would have stood up, but it was not time. Some of you, disciples of my Father, wouldn't lift your hand to help me. Sit around and talk about everything that I did. Why do you think he named it the final call? Why did he say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger? He didn't use the same greeting that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. Why did he do this? Why did he do that? You don't ask me, but you sit in secret councils among yourselves. But my sons were with me in Mecca. And I sat with the best that they got. And I talked about Master Farad Muhammad in a way that they had tears running out them scholars' eyes. I never backed down one bit from what we believe. And I told them there's no compromise on Elijah Muhammad. Because ain't none of you taught me nothing. You didn't raise me up. Did nobody give a damn for the black man in America until Master Farad Muhammad came and raised up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And don't you ever forget it. So the government has agents among all these little groups trying to whip up a frenzy against Farrakhan. If we don't stop him now, he'll get all of the people. So you resort to murder? Well, it's not my death you planning. No, I think I'm going to be around to bury my enemies. All the way up to the President of the United States. All the way up. You think that these few people that are here is all that's with me? These are some that are trying to be civilized. I got some out there. Oh, brother and sister, you just don't know what you're playing with. These 7 angels, when they started dropping their stuff, it says they dropped one vial into the bottomless pit, and smoke came out of the bottomless pit that turned the sky dark. Here you see smoke coming up from Kuwait now that's turning the sky dark. It said in Revelations, it dropped a star, it fell in the sea, and the sea caught on fire, and a third part of them died in the sea. An oil slick in the Gulf now. It's on fire. He said he's going to light a fire under their feet. Some reports that I've read, they said if they go on a land, they will lose 50% of the soldiers. And that's just the beginning. What do you think Russia's doing? Come on, let's talk now. America gloating that Russia's falling apart. And Bush is thinking he's the only game in town. Don't you know what God is doing? He makes you happy before he plucks you. Have you ever seen a bulb before it goes out, it gets real bright, then it's gone, brother. Be careful when you get too happy. It may be your last moment of happiness. God is judging the day. Oh, when I looked at Saddam, I said, oh, Allah, I know what I'm looking at. I got to get out of here. I see my Arab Muslim brothers, and I love them. I love our world of Islam. But they've taken Satan for a friend. King Fahd has taken America for a God beside Allah. I'm sorry, but I told this to his son, his nephew, Prince Bandar. I said, the wheel is going to be in the desert, Prince Bandar, and the wheel is no friend of America. And they've already seen it in the Gulf. They've already seen the wheel. I don't know what it's going to do, and I don't want to pretend that I know. But I know it ain't Saddam Hussein and 28 nations fighting. God got a hand in this. He said to his servant, come out into the desert. I will speak to you there. I don't know what God is about to say in the desert, but I'm glad I'm not there to hear what he's going to say. Not in that desert. Every time a scud goes up, as I heard a comedian say last night, there's a new beer commercial, this scud's for you. He's a Muslim comedian. Russia's sitting back watching because the machinery that Saddam Hussein is using comes from Russia. And every weakness that is shown up in that machinery in this prelude to the Great War They are marshaling and monitoring it. You see Gorbachev changing now? Huh? What do you see Gorbachev doing? Just what Shevardnadze said he would do when he quit. He said, I see a dictatorship coming. That's the only way they can get Russia back in line. The army of Russia is ready. They're chomping at the bit. They're tired of all of this freedom talk, this glasnost, this perestroika. Now watch. America took her soldiers out of Europe, brought them down into Africa, into the Middle East, brought a lot of her tanks down, right? Brought a lot of her missiles down. Now Europe getting funny. Go read Revelations. It's all there. Talked about how these things had heads like horses and they had tails like scorpions. They ain't nothing but missiles. Got a tail, you know, it got fire on his tail. And you got the tanks all out there ready for battle. It's all in the book. The 7 trumpets are beginning to blow now. When Russia moves in Europe, that's the real battle. They happy because they think Russia's asleep. That bear only went to sleep for a minute to give this wicked one a chance to flex his muscles. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that the great war is not to be fought in the Middle East, but that one in the Middle East is the trigger for one that's coming up in Europe. And I'm telling you, God is going to kill all these Europeans. Oh, yes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said you don't have to ask nobody for no land. There's going to be plenty of space for whoever is left. Yes, brothers and sisters. He told us what would happen to the 6th and the 7th fleet. Just keep your eyes on it. Watch China. Watch China. China already got an atomic bomb. Pakistan got one. Don't be surprised if Saddam got some hidden somewhere. We know Israel got some. We know South Africa got some. But there's something laying in wait for them. Japan been over there smiling a long time. America angry and jealous while we're spending all this money on armament to protect Japan. Japan is pouring all her excess wealth into building her economy. Now the Japanese are #1 in the world. Of the 10 major banks in the world, 7 or 8 of them are Japanese banks. America is a debtor nation, and she's in debt mostly to Japan. Now she goes to Japan and say, sick of this. You all got to take some of your own weight and defend yourself. Japan said, oh, we're so sorry. We did not like to do this. We try to keep a peace. Japan is the greatest shipbuilding nation on earth. Now Japan will be building armaments again. For what? Watch Japan and watch China while America's spending herself in the Gulf. She got some more action coming. Oh, you like war, do you, Mr. Bush? You like war, do you? Well, you lit the fuse, buddy. And it ain't gonna stop until Pharaoh is laid low. You see this place here called America? This is a preserved area. You're lucky you don't know what war is. America's fortunate. Never a bomb dropped on an American city. Never a missile. But God said, you're mine. You're mine, America. This is my workshop. I'm going to show you my power. Or you're going to know that there's a God. And every knee's going to bow and every tongue will confess that he's God. He's after you. My God, he calls me. He calls me by the thunder. I hear him call deep within my soul. I know I ain't got long to stay here in this shape, in this condition. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there's an angel in this book, I think it's the 7th angel. And when he sounds, he got 1 foot on land and 1 foot on water, on the sea. And he lifts up both hands. And he said, time that thou knowest, time shall be no longer. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that angel have the power to set the atmosphere on fire. What you breathe is your death. The very thing you breathe is oxygen mixed with nitrogen, right? Come on. And it's the nitrogen that balances oxygen, which is oxygen is pure fire. He said, but this angel, and these ain't spooks now. We ain't talking about no spirits with wings floating up. We talking about men of high wisdom and power. Say they'll cut a shortage in gravity, meaning separate the atoms of nitrogen and oxygen. And then you'll have 12 miles of fire above you. Take fire into your nostrils, you wicked hypocrites and disbelievers. You like to smoke? You like to blow coke? Blow that. Your burning days is over, baby. You won't have to come right or die. It's over now. Man, I'm happy. I'm happy. And then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you don't even, he said that the God told him, we don't have to even strike a match. He said that's an option that he can do. But he can take this country without even firing a shot. As the Bible says, he take the kingdom from whom he pleases and he give it to whom he pleases. I suppose it pleases God to give you the kingdom, give you the United States of America. What you got to say about it? Just say all praise is due to God, because you can't give it to yourself. Now the messenger said God will take it from this white boy. And he can take it from him without even striking a match. So how can he do that? It's easy for God. He can put you in such a state mentally till you don't know what you have. Did you read in the scripture where it said people are going to seek death and can't find it? You want to die and God ain't going to let you die. He's going to hold you in life. Oh, that's a terrible thing, man, when you want to die and can't die. His chastisement is going to be severe. Then the last thing I say to you tonight, oh, I'm so happy to be among you again. You know? And I tell you, if it is God's will, I'll be out Wednesday. But don't look for me a lot. There's a few things I have to say to you. You know? I mean, I'm not going to abandon you, you know. Because as long as he keeps me here, I'm going to do my job. But my job is no more out there. My job is in here. Getting you ready and us ready for what's about to come. The last thing I want to say is the scriptures in Revelation said Babylon is fallen. Is fallen. And that's a mystery Babylon. So they're comparing Saddam to the old king of Nebuchadnezzar, because Babylon is just 60 miles from Baghdad, or 80 miles from Baghdad. But that Babylon is a sign of this one. America is a modern Babylon. She's like a golden chalice on the outside, but filth and abomination on the inside. And why is Babylon fallen? She's fallen because she has become the habitation of devils. And a hole for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hateful bird. When I was in Baghdad, it came over the news. The American government is asking all American citizens in the following countries to get out now. Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Sudan, Jordan, Pakistan. They named about 8 countries. Northern Nigeria, that's right. Get out. People got wealth over there. They ain't got time to get it together. You know how birds are? When it gets cold in winter, they don't wait. They just start flying. Going where it's warmer climate. But the book says these are hateful birds. They're flying now back to America, leaving all their possessions behind in Muslim countries. And when they come to America and they see somebody named Muhammad, you see the hate in their eyes. When they look at your color and they see them dark people over there driving them out, they're hateful birds. And when they come back, they carry a foul spirit. This country is a habitation of devils and is falling. And now God says to you, come out of her. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her plagues and her sins. For her sins have reached unto heaven. Will you now come out? While there's time, will you get yourself together? Every sister in here, you got time. Come out of America. What do you mean, come out? I live in America. What are you talking about, come out? I mean, come out of her ways. I mean, come out of her ways. Make an exodus out of the mentality that links you to a world that God is angry with. Stop being freaks. Come out. No more lesbianism. Come out. No more sorcery and witchcraft. Come out. Come out of the alcohol and the strong drink, the fornication, the adultery. Come out of the mind of a hater of God and one that revels in the filth and debauchery of a decadent world. Come out. Come out and be yourself. What is yourself? You are born of the righteous. You, women, come on out and be yourself. Don't be angry with a man who asks you to cover your body. Don't say, who are you to tell me? So if my dress is cut so low, it ain't none of your business. Because them ain't yours, you know. No, sister, they're yours. But if you look at the way men are raping women today, and the disrespect that men have for women today, what's wrong with you covering yourself and making yourself like you used to be, a righteous woman of God? You don't have to be ugly to be covered. You can be beautiful and covered. Yes, you can. This is I'm calling you to reform. We gotta reform. God wants to put us on top. He ain't gonna put no junkie on top. You can come leave the reefer, brother. You can't go to heaven high. But if you go to heaven, you'll be high. You'll be high from knowledge. And more knowledge you get, the higher you go. Until you get so high, your enemy can't reach you. You can come out of her. Come on out of being a homosexual, brother. That's not your natural way of life. I know what they tell you. You are a woman trapped in a man's body. But there'll be somebody coming along in a minute to put a hole in your body, see if a woman will come out. You're a man. You are a man. You just need to know how to be that again. And you know, when you learn what a man is, you don't want to be a woman. Because even if you play woman, you can't be one. Any man that want a real woman ain't gonna fool around with no man. Ain't nothing no man can give us that a woman can't give us 1,000 times better. That's what she's made for. So brother, don't fight. Switch. Switch from where you are. Stop switching though. And come on and be your beautiful self. And you sisters that want to be men, shame on you. Shame. Ain't no woman that want a real man gonna be fooling around with you. Not when the real thing comes along. No. We got to come out of all these frustrations and become the people of God. You are God's people, and He wants to make us a great nation. I thank you so very much for listening to me. I pray that Almighty God will bless you and every one of you that has a family member in the Gulf. I pray that God will bless our brothers and sisters there to get out. But if they don't get out, they died because they believed in the white man. And if they didn't believe, they didn't have the courage to say no. They died that you won't make that mistake. So that when the war gets going in Europe, they'll be coming after you all. And I'm telling you in advance. Here's what you tell them. Take the back page of the final call. And when they call you, you go. Take the paper with you. And just take point number 10. Just go home tonight and just put a big red mark circle around point number 10. And when they say, we want you, we're drafting you, say, you don't draft me.
Talk like that. Talk, man. If there ever was a time that you should open your mouth like a man, it's now. Say, not me. No, 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 no. Not me. Not me. Sister. And mothers, you teach your sons. Because there ain't no man helping you with your babies. You don't send your sons to die over there when our fight is here for justice. Tell them like this. We who declared ourselves to be righteous Muslims do not believe that this nation should force us to take part in wars which take the lives of human beings. Notice, not we who somebody else declared to be a Muslim, we who declared ourselves. This is a declaration that you got to make to the white man. I declare that I am a Muslim, one who submits to do the will of God. And I'm not going to allow you to force me to take part in your wars, which take the lives of human beings, especially when we have nothing to gain from it. How many barrels of oil did they promise you? They ain't promised you nothing but that jive salary. Saudi Arabia didn't offer you some of the oil wells and some of the revenue from the oil. If you stayed and fought, you got to have somebody to negotiate for you. Come on in and let us talk for you. Now, you don't take no black people. We ain't got nothing from it. But you're an American. When did we become Americans? Well, according to the Constitution, no, baby. According to the practice, when have we become Americans? You got to talk today, man. You talking for your life. Don't wait till you get in the Gulf to remember you a Muslim. Don't go to the white man for a job. When I say don't go to the white man for a job, I mean don't go to the army looking for a job. Let's learn how to create jobs for ourselves. But if you go for a job, they got a job for you. And their job is you're going to kill who they want you to kill. Yesterday is Panama. The day before it's Grenada. The day after that is Nicaragua or Cuba. Tomorrow today it's in the Gulf. Tomorrow it's in Vietnam or China or Japan. Some other dark person ain't never bothered you. No, you come on out of that. You in the army now? If you're in the army, go tell your commanding officer, I'm a Muslim. When did you find that out? I went to the mosque and found that out yesterday. You say, you didn't know it the day before yesterday? No, I didn't know it. Because y'all didn't teach me who I was. You know doggone well I didn't know who I was. Look at how I signed up for you. I signed my name, James McGillicuddy III. That ain't my name. That's your cracker name. So you see, I didn't know who I was. And you can't blame a man for acting foolish when he'd been hit in the head and didn't know who he was. But I woke up today. I'm a Muslim and I ain't going nowhere to fight for you. In fact, I'm getting the hell out of here today. Talk man, talk. Oh, you're going to be a little scared. Some of you, your heart will start pounding. But don't pay no attention to your heart. Let it follow your head. You going in there scared, maybe shaking. Let's tell him. I am a Muslim. And watch him jump. And then he'll go to shaking. If you think I'm lying, watch what God do when you stand up. Go in there in the name of Allah. Don't go in no strange name. Call on Allah. Oh, man, you have him trembling so. He said, well, you got to go. You go to jail. I said, I've been in jail all my life. But look, we're offering you money. That's all you can offer me. That ain't nothing but paper with a white man face on it. It's a medium of exchange, but I can't spend it if I'm dead. No, I don't want that. I'll make that. I got a printing press in my basement. No. May Allah bless you. Thank you for listening as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much. I want to ask you 3 questions and then we can go home. Y'all take the charity? Are you going to take care of that? Brothers and sisters, can I ask you a question? I know you've been here long. I've been away so long, I can't help myself. When I come back, I say I'm going to be out of here in an hour and a few minutes, but I just get carried away. But I want to ask you a question. How many of you believe, or how many of you are here for the first time, never been before? May I see your hands? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. How many of you that are here for your first, second, or third time believe that what you heard taught today, that it is the truth and is good for us as a people? Let me see your hands. Thank you. It is. Now, brothers and sisters, I can't ask for anything more than what you've already done. You have come, you've given us your time, you've given us your attention. And I've done the best I could to make it as clear for you as I possibly could. And it appears as though it was clear by your response. But there's a third something happening all the time that I'm talking to you. There's another power also talking. And that's between you and your Creator. And each one of you, while I was conversing with you, God also was saying things to you that I know nothing of. And maybe Allah said to you, man, this is what I've been looking for all my life. Maybe you said, I know that what that man is saying is the truth. And it is time that I make a change in my life.
And maybe God has reassured you from things that your grandmother and your grandfather laid on you all in Mississippi and Alabama or here in Chicago. They used to tell you things and you forgot. And some of them came back to you today while I was talking to you. And they told you that this white man's world one day would come to an end. And a better world God was going to bring in. Yeah? Did you believe it? Well, we're at the end of his world now. A new world is coming in, and you ain't got to die to see it. Maybe God said to you during that time, the 2 hours that Brother Farrakhan has been talking, I think I would like to unite with brother and become a student and a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because everything that that man taught, that man that was teaching me today, ain't nothing but the truth. I don't know what Allah, God, said to you. So this third question that I'm asking deals with you and your God. I would like to know how many of my brothers and how many of my sisters feel, after listening and knowing that it's the truth, how many of you felt today that it's time for you to unite on the side of that truth, and let's go on and build for ourselves and our families and our people before it's too late. May I see the hands of those of you who would like to unite with us, and let's go and build? Up in the balcony, downstairs also. Do you have time for just a couple of minutes while I shake the hands just of those that wanted to unite? Do you have just a couple of minutes? Please, would you like to see those who would like to unite? I would. I want the privilege. I don't want nobody coming up here to shake my hand and say, I've been wanting to shake that man's hand. I want to shake your hand too, but that's not what this is about, okay? This is not about a handshake. It's symbolic of my uniting their hand to the hand of truth, and they're becoming a part of the nation of Islam, the nation of the righteous. So all the brothers and sisters in the balcony, would you come downstairs and come through the center door and right down and let me shake your hands? Those that are in the basement auditorium, you can come up and come through the center door and I will shake your hand. And those in the main auditorium, let me see your hands again. The brothers and sisters in the main auditorium. Well, you can get up right now. The sisters, you can go to your nearest aisle, if it's the center aisle or the side aisle, and just come right around. All the brothers, you can get up, go to the nearest aisle. If it's to the center aisle, if it's to the outer aisle, go right to the back and come around and come right down the center. Don't leave, please. Would you just sit for a moment and just watch this? And remember now what you see at your church when the pastor makes an altar call. You don't hardly see anybody get up. Not young people, but look at these. Look at